Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at jonnydelsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag JD49. Welcome in. Johnny caught Johnny bug-eyed on this fine Tuesday night.
Long day.
Yes, we will get into all of that. Welcome in. If you are a little bit like, what is happening, and you're not aware of the channel, the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast usually comes to you twice a week, usually Mondays and Fridays. I do see some usual suspects like Marcos in here, 49ers throwback, Hugh Wilkins. If you are new to the channel, though, the good thing is you are probably here because you've hit the notification bell. Johnny is at the Senior Bowl. We're going to get into some really fun stuff. He was just talking to me about some of the stuff he saw. I'm going to ask him a ton of questions. We'll take your questions as well in the chat. So definitely excited, Johnny, for you. Tell me, first of all, before we get into some of the players, give me the breakdown of, as far as 49ers creators, who were you able to see? I didn't even ask you yet. So
Yeah, I saw somebody that I have no idea who they are. So if you're watching this stream, I'm sorry. Is a younger guy. Is a younger
Okay.
guy. He had a bright red 49ers hat on, was taking notes.
Oh,
I didn't get a chance. I didn't get a chance to say hi and introduce myself. I'm looking a little red from this. It was very sunny today. It was very, very sunny today. I'm going to need to wear some sunscreen tomorrow. It was cold, but very sunny. It was like 43 degrees. I will say Steph Sanchez was here. So connected with Steph. We were hanging out. She bugged out early in the second practice because normally the first practice starts at 10:30 or 11. And then and the last practice would be over by 3 o'clock. Actually, it was usually 10 to noon, and then there would be an hour break, and then they would go 1 to 3. That's what the normal practice schedule has been like in years past. And this year, they started the first practice at 1:30 and it went to 3:30. And then the second practice started at 4 and went to 6 o'clock. Now, understand, it was 40 degrees when the second practice started. Then the sun went down and it got very cold very quickly. And Steph, she, even being from the great Rocky Mountain area of Colorado, said it was too cold. She buzzed out with about a half hour left in the second practice, in the American team practice. I'm not calling her out. I'm just giving a replay of what happened. I was supposed to connect with one Wayne Breezy, but because of the horrible winter storm that has captured most of the country, his flight was canceled. So he is trying to fly in tonight to be there tomorrow. So now I did connect with one Texans content creator. He was on the show with us, one Houston Stressens. We hung out, went to dinner earlier, and he is a lovely person that we had a wonderful time together, and we'll be connecting tomorrow. We're going to go to the media day. It is now at a different time. It used to be in the evenings. Now it's going to be a luncheon sort of thing before practices tomorrow. So we're going to go mingle with some players. So if there's anybody in particular you want me to ask some questions to, let me know in the chat. Now, I will say I got some great angles of the American team line play because we went and stood right behind the goalpost where they were right next to Jack Dorsey. We were sitting there. Jack Dorsey was about 10 feet away watching the line prospects along with us. So it's always fascinating. Houston Stressens, he ran into Nick Casario, talked with him for about 10 minutes. One point, I sent Adam the picture. I was sitting there, and Steph leans over and she says, "That's Adam Peters right behind you." And I looked over, and Adam Peters was sitting just to my right. Now, they have their own area. I don't know what he was doing on our side because he was trying to be incognito. He had his hoodie on and all over his face, but it was definitely Adam Peters right there. So I kind of wanted to talk to him, see if he was going to trade for BA, but I didn't have the stones to do it in that moment. But it was a good day of practice. Lots of good football action on the field. Lots of good prospects. I love seeing the Senior Bowl. It's always really fun to see the prospects that are out there, and it just reminds you that every year there's a lot of good football players do come out in the draft. So it's not always about that first round. There's a lot of guys to be had in the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds of the draft.
So, yeah, talking about the winter storm, I didn't know Strawberry is from Cincinnati. I thought Strawberry was in the Bay Area. I just assumed, you know what assuming does. I am not far, 3 hours away, northeastern Indiana, and we got completely crapped on with the snow. Honestly, Johnny, we had talked about me trying to get out there. I have a work thing that I can't get out of, but my flight, absolutely, I wouldn't have
It
been
would
able
have
to
been
come either.
canceled anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
so
would
it
have been
worked out
hammered
that
again.
way. Yeah. So all right, interesting news there. I'm excited to really get into some of the players. Um,
I
who
will
is
address this question because this is something that people tend to ask players at the Senior Bowl, and sometimes a lot more gets made of this. Every team will meet with every player at the Senior Bowl. So if I ask them if they've met with them, everybody's going to say yes because there's at least a semi-formal meeting with every single team to update contact information, to update agent information, so that they can make sure they know every player's schedules and how to, if they want to get a 30 for 30 visit with one of those players, their correct contact avenues. So it's something that every year players will get asked by somebody, "Hey, have you met with this team?" And they'll say, "Yeah, I've met with this team at the Senior Bowl." And sometimes more gets made of it than it is. Every single player is meeting with every single team. They started doing that a few years ago, where and that's one reason that they've been adjusting the practice schedule the way they have, because they allot time for teams to meet with all the players so that every single player will get access to every single team.
so let me ask you this then, based on that question, can you can you go off of that and say, "Hey, I know you've met with everyone. Did you have any extended time with any certain teams, i.e. the 49ers?"
Yeah, I can ask that. I don't know if this situation allows for those kind of meetings, because they're trying to make sure that everybody talks to everybody. You have around 100 players here, and so when you have 100 players trying to meet with 32 teams, uh, just over the week, that's going to be very difficult, especially if some guys plan on leaving a little bit earlier. So they try and jam those in the first couple days on top of the players getting all their meetings done. There was a question about Brad Graham. No, Brad didn't make the trip. He tore his patellar tendon a few weeks ago. So he had the Weston Richburg injury. So he wasn't able to make it.
Yeah. All right. So do you want to jump in here? Who is the first player that stood out to you that, and now let me phrase it this way, Johnny. I'm curious. Who is a player that jumped out to you that was completely not on your radar that made you say, hold on. Who's this?
There was a few guys. I will say one guy that jumped out like a mullet in a room full of bald people. because he had a mullet himself. That is Jennings Dunker. He's a tackle from Iowa. That kid jumped off the field. It may have been his short shorts, but he stood out because, I mean, dude has tree trunks for legs. Tree trunks for legs. It may have been accentuated by his shorter shorts, but I mean, his legs look like they were the size of my torso. He's a thick, thick dude. Not only that, he played tackle at Iowa. The question about him, I started to look him up in between the practices. The question about him has been, can he play tackle at the next level with his arm length? Is that he doesn't have prototypical NFL caliber arm length as a tackle. That being said, he took a number of reps at guard today. Really, really liked what I saw from him. Incredible power, extremely strong in the low end, is able to drive guys off the line, was working combo blocks with ease, was getting to the second level with violence, looked really sharp in the run game. Now, he also comes from a system at Iowa that plays a lot of outside zone. That was one thing you can go look. I think it was Guy Haberman had Iowa's offensive coordinator on his podcast. I think it was in September. And, he talked about that they run the wide zone system that Shanahan does. And he said that Kittle called him up and was like, you're going to run Zorro, right? Which is outside zone. That's what Zorro is in the Shanahan nomenclature. So Jennings Dunker looked really solid. Would love to plug him in there at guard from what I saw. Now, there's more homework to do on the kid, see where he's at, but just a day one guy who made a huge impression on a lot. I think not just on me, but on a number of people there. He screams blue collar lunch pail kind of guy. Now he seems like he might be a little shy. He didn't want to stick around in the interview area after practice, so there wasn't any chances to talk to him. But he has the aura of just a classic mauler, moving, awesome, like throwback lineman is kind of what he gave you this sense of. Really liked him in the drills. Yeah, I mean everything. So really impressed with Jennings Dunker from Iowa.
Okay,
some
Johnny,
other people
real quick, Johnny. Let's get to this super chat from Lisa, because I want you segue into, let's break down the week, shall we? So Senior Bowl is later in the week. Explain what day one is. Explain the rest of the week for us.
Yeah, so the game happens on Saturday. I will say the game is an afterthought for what actually happens this week. Well, it's not that no one cares. It's that oftentimes there's about 40% of the players don't play in the game. So they're there for the practices because the practices are a little less injury risk. But they give these players the opportunities to show one-on-one reps versus other seniors. So you get one-on-one offensive lineman reps against D-line. They go one at a time. There's a bunch of clips that they put up, and this year they're giving us access to this stuff. So I'm going to hop off here and see if it's in the portal. I doubt it's in the portal tonight, but we'll see. I literally walked into my hotel room 15 minutes before this show went live. It has been that kind of a day. And so you get all those one-on-one reps. You get one-on-one linebackers versus running backs in route running. You get DBs versus safeties versus tight ends, corners versus wide receivers. You get to see how these guys move in space, how they compete in space and move and against other seniors. That gives you a very good set level of competition. So the thing about the Senior Bowl and what I've seen for the last several years is if somebody shows up here and they can dominate here, they will usually be a very, very good player at the next level. because they are playing against people who have a lot of experience, who've played against a lot of other really good players, and are like the amount of players that come out of the Senior Bowl that are picked in the top 100. It's usually like 60 or 70 of the guys in the top 100 almost come out of the Senior Bowl. It is shown to be the number one source for top 100 picks of anywhere. Because you get those experienced guys. So it's a really good evaluation tool. And that's why you see so many executives here. Like I said, I was literally sitting almost next to Adam Peters. And so day one is going to be practices, day two's practices, and then they do a media day. That's going to be before practices tomorrow. And then day three is again more practices. You start to see some players leave after day two. I found that out last year. We saw that last year, like Shamar Stewart, for example, showed up 2 days of the Senior Bowl, was really dominant, said, I showed what I needed to show here to secure a first round pick. I'm out. I'm not going to stick around to get hurt. Walter Nolan, he did the same thing. He showed up all 3 days, but he was trying to solidify himself as a top end first round pick. And then he did not play in the game. There's a ton of guys last year didn't play in the game. So the game is an afterthought for the practices this week. The practices are where the real meat and potatoes of the Senior Bowl evaluation is.
So you mentioned Walter Nolan. Do you know where I'm going with this? Do you want?
I do. I have a feeling we were going with that. That was the guy though that I had talked about before I got down here. Just saying.
Yeah, Walter Nolan was definitely. There was 3 or 4 names I remember from last year that you were like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over.
And Walter Nolan was somebody I was excited about last year. I just wasn't sure about him at 11. You know, I saw him as a top 20 pick. I will still stand by that. He may have been worth higher. We'll have to see how his NFL career. I mean, he sure looks like a stud, but he has a hard time getting in Arizona right now.
He's in Arizona.
Yeah. Though, I will say another kid that really had some flashes, offensive line, was Markel Bell from Miami. He's a tackle. He had some really strong flashes. As far as defensive line, there was defensive tackle Cameron Ball from Arkansas. He showed some really nice flashes, big time push, bull rush, and pushing the center, not just in the pass game, but moving vertically to move guys back into the backfield in the run game. There was a couple edge players that really stood out. Trying to see which team it was. Out of Boston College, Quintavious Hutchins. He's got a really, really good first step. Could be like one of those specialist speed pass rushers. Really liked what I saw from him. Another kid. This kid really showed up. Tyreek Sapp from Florida, had some really good reps in the one-on-ones. Where is he? There he is. Okay, Vincent Anthony from Duke. Kid is lightning fast off the edge. Long arms, a little bit of a narrow frame. He's going to have to bulk up when he gets to the second level or into the NFL, but he's got a super twitchy first step. I want to see him though, bend around the edge. Does he have the bend? Because he's got the burst, he's got the length. Can he bend? Because one thing I kept seeing from him today that was driving me nuts was that he'd win, and then it was like that time where a guy tries to almost jump through a tackle's block. He doesn't grab and bend and turn the corner. I want to see if he has that bend, because he's not going to win that way a lot at the second level. He's got the speed, he's got the burst, but I want to see a little bit how it goes for that. There's a number of good edge prospects in this here. I mean, Max Lewin from Iowa, he showed some good reps. There's a few other guys here. I got to find them on the page. Like I said, it's been a long day. I looked at a number of wide receivers. I was watching different guys. Gabe Yakis from Illinois. He had some good reps there. So yeah, a couple good linebacker prospects that were looking good. Overall, it was a good day. But yeah, those are some names that I wasn't as familiar with when I got down here.
Just a good day, maybe just not for your face.
Rude.
Hey, Glass City checking in. Thanks for the super chat. Buy a burger, Johnny Dell.
Actually, I'm going to get some barbecue with that. We're going to the Meat Boss hopefully tomorrow. If you don't know about the Meat Boss in Mobile, Alabama, just Google it. They were on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. I found them before they were on the show. We went there a couple years ago with Wayne. They have this stuff called rib candy, and it is like rib crack. It is unbelievable. You can look it up online of how they make it. It is unreal. It's a true Southern barbecue place. It is absolutely phenomenal. Even the restaurant we were at tonight, I had way too of an honest of a waitress, and like she was telling us like that the food that we went to a seafood place, right? It's on the bay, and she was like, "Yeah, we're not actually a fresh seafood place. We're a chain, and we get it from Florida." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But she's like, and she's telling us like she looks at me, she's like, "Okay, before you leave, you need to take him to some real seafood." I'm like, we're at a seafood. You work at a seafood restaurant. And we were here, and you're telling me this.
Hey, tips are better there, I guess. That's where she's at.
I guess. And I said, well, I'm going to take him to the Meat Boss, and she was like, "Oh, yes, that's a great place." So I mean, the locals know about it.
Did you tell her?
But I appreciate it. Anyways.
Rodeo.
Well, yeah. Anyways, we had a side.
So we're in a good
side
mood.
journey on that, but we need to get the rest of what he says. Give me some optimism for next year. I think the roster is in a better spot than people want to admit. Sure, we need to improve, but I don't think LA and Seattle are so far ahead we can't catch. Great observation, Glass City, because I actually posted about this on my X account. I think it was yesterday. It was either yesterday or the day before. My time is starting to slip away from me as I get older and more senile. But I will just read what I posted because it's almost exactly what I posted about. And so here I need to find, okay, here's what I wrote verbatim. I said, I don't think the 49ers are as far behind the Rams and Seahawks as so many seem to be sure of. Holes everywhere is what I keep seeing. It's not that they have holes everywhere. They're missing force multipliers, guys whose presence amplifies the role players. Bosa is a force multiplier. He makes Bryce Huff dangerous because Bosa wins at the 5-yard mark as well or better than anyone. Pair that with Huff at 7 yards and an interior defensive line at 3, and it's a suffocating pass rush. Fred Warner is a force multiplier, a guy who can suffocate the hashes and close any cutbacks from coming back inside. It makes outside angles easier and forces quarterbacks to hold the ball. A true X receiver becomes a force multiplier because teams can't man up a weak side and roll zones over the passing strength as easily. They aren't there yet, but they are not as full of holes as many people say. That is how I feel about that. Is that everybody's saying we have holes everywhere. I've never seen a 12-5 team be deemed having so many glaring holes as the 49ers. Like this and a 12-5 team that had massive injuries to blue chip players and had a full blue chip top tier player just go AWOL. So it wasn't as if that this is a team that is full of holes. What they're missing is their top tier talent. So on defense, you don't become a dominant defense because you have no single dominant player. You have a bunch of guys who, when you pair them with dominant players, you become a dominant defense because they're role players and they can do their role really well. When you ask them to try and be dominant in a singular, above their role, that's when they're not quite there. But that doesn't mean that you have holes. That means you need to get your blue chip players back. You need to get your Micah Williams back. You need to get your Nick Bosa back. You need to get your Fred Warner back. On offense, the biggest problem that you saw was that they had no dynamic threat to win as a single receiver side. That changes the way that teams can play coverage against you. They didn't have that dynamic threat of a guy who can do something when they have the ball in their hands, and it suddenly creates gravity to open up space for everybody else. It wasn't, Jennings himself is a role player that can be very effective in a role. When you're asking him to be your number one X receiver, he's not that player. But when he's third and Juwan and he's a red zone target, he's extremely efficient in that role. Now, I don't think he comes back. I think he's going to want more money than he's actually worth it in that role.
Right.
But that's what is happening there. You need your force multipliers, guys, that it's not as simple as, they are a 99 overall and therefore your team's better. Like if we're using Madden ratings, there's something that when you plug in, they improve everybody else's overall by 5 because of what they bring to the table and how it makes everybody else's job easier. That's what they really need.
It makes me think this is totally off, but sometimes we go off on this program. The biggest force multiplier in the history of sports may be Barry Bonds, because Jeff Kent just got elected from the San Francisco Giants, just got elected to the Hall of Fame from stealing an MVP from Barry Bonds. Because look, you got to pitch to Jeff Kent, because look who's behind him. And Jeff Kent had gaudy numbers because look who you don't want to pitch to Barry, so you have to pitch to Jeff Kent. And it's things like that. I mean, Fred Warner, you talk about Fred Warner, he can cover CD Lamb on a go route. Like, what the heck? Like, just normal guys can't do that. You need those guys back on the team playing. And when you don't have them, it's just crazy.
Yeah,
So
and look, there's no quick path to this. You need your young players to develop. Like we're very low patience. A lot of people tend to be as far as fans. So like we look at the Houston Texans, we say that defense was just overnight like amazing. No, one, they added Danielle Hunter, which was a huge piece, right? He's a force multiplier. He comes in, but they also had guys develop over time to be really good. Azeez Al-Shire, when he left for the Texans, was not the Azeez Al-Shire he is now. If you go back and watch his 2021, 22 tape,
we were complaining about him. We were complaining.
Right. Like he showed flashes because he could cover, but he looked a lot like D Winters. Like D Winters and Azeez as where they were at their moments in their career, very, very similar players. Azeez was way too aggressive, would get caught moving out of position in coverage all the time, could get looked off by a quarterback with ease. But he had incredible range. He played with his hair on fire, and he was learning and growing. And he's now one of the best linebackers in the league. But in his third year, Azeez looked a lot like D Winters did this year. Like, we don't need a new linebacker. We need D Winters to take another step and develop. We don't need a new safety. We need Malik Mustafa to take another step and develop. He needs a true offseason of, not because he hasn't had a true offseason. He's had his rookie year, which was not a true offseason. Then last year, he was rehabbing the knee injury. He needs a true offseason. Marquise Siegel needs a true offseason to now look at the tape, digest everything he's seen. The kid's got tons of potential, but he's got to develop. Renardo Green needs to develop, take another step and develop. Like, we need these young guys to develop. You need Micah Williams to develop. You need Alfred Collins to develop. You need CJ West. All these guys need a good offseason to develop. Dominic Pooney needs to get back into the lab and develop, because he pulled an Ambry Thomas this year. He really good, and then he kind of flatlined. And then teams have been attacking his weaknesses. Now he's going to be able to identify, this is what I need to work on going forward. And Dominic Pooney needs to develop going forward. Ricky Pearsall has got to develop in how to stay on the field and being more of a route runner. Jacob Cowing needs to develop. Jordan Watkins, they need to develop. Like, these guys have got to do that this offseason. That is the best pathway for the 49ers moving forward. It's not to replace everybody they have on the roster. It's that their young guys have got to develop and move forward. Jordan James, you need to solidify that number 2 running back spot. You have to develop in there. There's things that we haven't seen because they haven't had some game reps. That doesn't mean that they're going to be static this offseason. They've got to develop as they go. That is the best way forward for the 49ers roster, is those young guys take another step. Every single one of those guys becomes, 2% better every month of this offseason. We're in fantastic shape going forward. And then you add in more youth with this draft and a good draft. We're really excited about where the 49ers are this season and next season and the season after.
So let me ask you this then, Johnny. If you look at those positions that you just said were, hey, this guy, we just need this guy to improve. That means that's checked off. We're good there. What position does strike you as one that could be filled with these very, very players that you are taking a look at?
I mean, guard is an option. I think they're gonna have to attack early. Um, I don't know if they're gonna invest an early draft pick on Jennings Dunker with some of the questions there. I think they would try and maybe get him with a third if he's there. I haven't looked into the draft boards and seen kind of what the views on him are. I think some people, where was he projected to go? Um, I've got to watch him out through this week. Is that something that they're willing to put an early round pick on? I think a kid that would make sense to look at as guard and as your future center, that it can be an understudy that I talked about a little bit before we came down here. I was able to interview him this evening. He had a very strong practice today. Is Jake Slaughter, center from Florida. He headsy player, understands what he's looking at, can be coached. Is a big dude. He's a big dude. I mean, geez, he's got some paws for hands. I shook his hand and it just
You
enveloped
lost
mine.
it. You lost
I
your
mean, just
hand.
about. I mean, almost. I think that's a position that they can address. I think they're going to need to go early for receiver in this draft. I think that's what makes a lot of sense. I know some people are saying Kenyon Sadiq at tight end from Oregon at 27. I don't know if Kenyon's going to be there at 27. It'll depend on what the measurables look like over the next couple months, but I would be surprised if Kenyon's there at 27. I know that's kind of like I think Daniel Jeremiah had that in his latest mock draft. I will be surprised. I think if you're going to go early in this draft, I think the safer picks, as far as there's going to be a lot of good production at 27 and good players, is going to be wide receiver. I think there's probably 11 wide receivers that are, I think, top 50 players in this draft. So if you're looking at, some of your safer picks at 27 and a position of need because of Brandon Ayuk, you need a true X receiver. Receiver looks really interesting. There's a kid here, got to talk to him a little bit tonight. I think is an interesting prospect. What's fascinating about him is that, one of the criticisms was that he was real slim framed. I'll tell you, standing across from the kid, he's not nearly as slight a frame as you would think. He's just really tall and really long. And so he looks more slight of frame than he is. But kid is a lot thicker than you would imagine. And that is one Jacoby Lane from USC. Kid looked real good tonight. He is a big catch radius guy. I'm trying to look up what notes I had on him. He's a huge catch radius guy. I mean, enormous wingspan. That is something that the 49ers, if we look at who would the 49ers pick, that one thing they really value from their receivers is a big catch radius. And that can take a number of different forms, right? So Debo was 6'1", so he wasn't short. He just looked shorter because he was so thick. But he also has a really high vertical. So he's got a big catch radius. Juwan Jennings, huge catch radius. Brandon Ayuk, long arms, big catch radius. George Kittle was a big catch radius guy. Like, they like those really big catch radius receivers because, if you're not a speed demon, like a Jacob Cowing, like a Marquise Goodwin, they want you to have a big catch radius, like a Julio Jones, okay? Because they love those intermediate routes with the layered throws. And a guy with a big catch radius, Ricky Pearsall, right? Dude can climb the ladder and go make catches. Big catch radius. Is that when you make those layered throws, if you don't have to drop those as low, if you can leave those higher, that makes them easier for your quarterback. And so they love those big catch radius guys. You can throw those intermediate layered throws over that they can be a little bit high, and your receiver can still go up, climb the ladder and get it, use their big catch radius. So a kid that really fits that is Jacoby Lane. I mean, he's like 6'3", I think, but his his arm length is gonna. I can almost guarantee you it's gonna end up in like the 90 plus percentile. Just super long arms. The way he moves because he's so lanky reminds me a little bit of BA. He was 1,000-yard receiver there at USC. He was their ex-receiver, their guy that even his junior year, if anybody jumped off sides, their quarterback was looking his way, like just the go route. So the question's going to be his 40 time. But I don't care as much about the 40 time because the game speed shows that he's got the speed. He's winning vertical routes over corners every game that you put on. Like he's going to beat these guys down the sideline. So I don't care as much if the 40 time isn't 4.35, 4.4. If it comes back 4.5, I don't care that much because he's winning at the 30-yard mark, which is really what matters most. And he shows a real knack for stacking receivers or stacking corners and using that length then to block them out and then be able to reach out and make those catches because he's got that huge catch radius. He did say, we asked him tonight, what's your favorite route to run? And he said that dig route, that Dover route, that one route that Kyle Shanahan loves more than any other route. That's his favorite route.
Okay. Well, that's something to look out for. Yeah, that's awesome. Who else, either someone that jumped out or someone that you're interested for tomorrow to see if you can talk to or interview?
Yeah. Some offensive lineman, Logan Taylor from Boston College. I want to talk to Marcus Bell or Markel Bell. See, kind of dig into him and see Nadame Tucker from Western Michigan. Really interesting edge prospect. Flashed a bunch of times. And we saw this last year with a few guys that were smaller school guys who flashed big time. And some of them have made a really good transition to the NFL. Some not so much. I will say there's a safety that's very intriguing from Kansas State, VJ Payne. Shows really good man coverage skills. Zone skills, he almost gave up a big catch down the seam, but the tight end kind of dropped it. He did the whole strapping thing, but it was more the tight end dropped it. Receiver from Baylor, Josh Cameron. It is going to be interesting. Caleb Douglas from Texas Tech. He's a receiver. He had some real good high point catches. Shows an ability to get out there. TJ Parker, defensive end from Clemson. He showed a lot of flashes today too. So there's a number of guys I want to see if they continue to flash over the next couple of days because they had some reps that were good, some that were okay. So we'll see how it goes there. And just want to see a little bit more. There's a tight end. Which tight end was it? Because there's a whole bunch of tight ends here. Wasn't the kid out of Alabama? I'm soured on Alabama tight ends after the whole Cam Latu thing.
Thank you. We've been soured.
I'm just saying, I'm never gonna believe in an Alabama tight end anymore again, because of old Cam Latu. He ruined it for me. I stuck my neck out for him.
Yeah,
we drafted him in the 3rd round, and
gosh,
look,
man, imagine if he would have. Yeah, man.
I'm just saying.
Then when Kittle gets hurt, it's like, okay, you have this guy.
Yeah, it's the kid it's Rush from Stanford. I'm remembering his name now. I haven't seen it on here in what notes I made, but I remember now it was Rush from Stanford because Steph and I joked if John Lynch had a class with him, then he'd be certain to be a draft pick. If for those who don't remember, Solomon Thomas infamously had a class with John Lynch, and so that was one reason John Lynch was pounding the table for Solomon Thomas. But no, Rush, the tight end from Stanford, showed some real good action in the run game, and then he's got some good ball skills. So those are some guys I'm looking forward to tomorrow. We'll see what happens. There's always some guys who they show up tomorrow and you get a bunch of bad reps all in one, and some guys show up and it's just a bunch of meh reps, and other guys, they start continuing to build off of day one. So
Yeah. So I want to fill everyone in again, in case you joined a little late today. First off, you're either one of the faithful who are with us many, many times. Hey, you've hit the notification bell. That's why you're here. Johnny's at the Senior Bowl. We're going at weird, odd times. If you are new,
It's gonna be later in the evenings this weekend, just this week, just because
yeah,
they changed the practice schedules.
nature
I
of the beast.
probably won't be getting back to my hotel before 8:30 most nights. So
Yeah. So, not a regular week, but if you are new to the channel, we usually go Monday and Friday mornings, talk about
8:30 Central Time, I should say.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
6:30 Pacific Time.
So, make sure that you hit the notification bell because when we go back to a regular schedule, when I say regular, sometimes even that doesn't work out exactly right. Also, if you are new to the channel, I definitely want to make sure that you understand that this is just a small part. The real piece of this channel is Johnny's breakdown of film. And so he breaks down all Niner games and really goes through and shows why the X's zig, the O's zag, really has good commentary on the videos as well. You can just honestly one of my favorite things to do is to look at past videos and see the ones that have some of the most views and then kind of just take a look. There's one a couple years ago that why Brock Purdy should be MVP. That's still I talk about that video a lot. Your wife checking in real quick. She says, "Good night, honey." Jesse says, "Good night,
I figured
daddy."
she was asleep by now. I called her right before I got on the show, because, well, I hadn't been able to talk to her all day, and I was like, "Honey, I got like 6 minutes before I got to go live." And I said, "I'll call you after the show," and she said, "I'll probably be asleep." She's got all three babies at home while I am here
Yep.
at the Best Western.
We did talk sunscreen, Dawn. Do not fret. Do not worry. We did talk about the sunscreen.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
we're on it. He's on top of it. All right. So Johnny, let's get you out of here on this. I'm just curious what you think. I'm taking a left turn. I'm curious what you think. Breaking news a few hours ago that Bill Belichick
Yeah.
will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer and what that could mean for Tom Brady because Tom Brady was the one that was actually suspended. Let's keep that in mind.
What it means is that Tom is considered an absolute first ballot Hall of Famer. Is that they view him as the GOAT. And what this means for Bill is this means that there's a message from the league that says we believe, or people around the NFL that says we believe that, one, you had the greatest quarterback of all time, two, you still cheated in some ways, and three, we saw how everything fell apart after Tom left and he went and won a Super Bowl with somebody else. And now we've seen how UNC has gone. And I think all of this has soured people on Bill Belichick. And I think that some of it are people in the media, specifically probably around the New England area, who did not like the way that Bill treated the media and interacted with the media. I mean, just honestly, I think that's what's going on here, because you have 50 people who vote on this and they're almost all media. So I think the bigger travesty is, at what point can you actually make the argument that a six-time Super Bowl winning head coach is not a first ballot
I
Hall of
mean,
Famer?
come on. I'm not a
That's just
Belichick
getting
guy,
ridiculous.
but come on. The guy deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Like
I mean, come on. Like, yes,
ridiculous.
you can say that a lot of it had to do with Brady. Okay, you could say the same thing about Walsh, that a lot of it had to do with Montana. That
Yeah.
you cannot, we don't get to play pick and choose on this. If Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, who is? I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, there
That's
just is a point where you cannot make a true reasoning for why he shouldn't be, because I'm sorry, we saw there were some years that the Patriots didn't look as good because their roster wasn't as good. He built a roster that was good enough to win the Super Bowl 6 times because he was the de facto GM. So even if you just looked at that, there's very few coaches that have ever been as successful as him as putting together a roster and putting together teams like he did.
yeah.
So it's just ridiculous. I'm not like a Bill Belichick truther in any way of like
Right.
that. I think he's the greatest coach that's ever been. But there just is a point where it's absurdity that a guy that has the kind of accolades behind his name is not getting recognized as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Come on. really? This just seems petty.
It definitely, the media, like you said, I mean, not liking that. So, okay, you can not like a lot of things, but definitely odd. I just wanted to get your take on that. I just thought it was very weird. So, all right. So again, Johnny is at the Senior Bowl. This was day one. Got a couple more days of practice, couple more interviews. Excited to hear about when you can catch up with Wayne. Update us there too. Make sure, guys, that you hit the notification bell because honestly, we just don't know when we're gonna go again. Seriously.
We're gonna
Johnny
try
will
and go
text
around this
me.
time, but
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I
So,
was texting Adam as I was driving down the highway at 70
uh,
miles an
and
hour.
it
Like,
was not readable.
I'm just saying, I was trying. I had to do voice to text, and I'm like, I'm driving down the highway. Can we push? Because I hadn't even gotten here and checked into my hotel yet. I checked in online, but I still had to go through the process. I'm like, I really hope I can make it in there.
I PISUBTO. That's what you texted me. I was like, who's a what's it now?
I was
Is that
trying
a
to say,
player?
can we push it?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
what was trying to be text.
That's what. But what's funny about that is not outside the norm, even on a week where you're back
Look.
home. I'm just
You don't
calling
need
you
to
out.
out me.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
need to out me as a wide thumb texter.
Oh, we run a wide 9. All right, you need to get to bed, man. You got a
I
big day
do.
tomorrow. Updating the faithful. Thank you for your work down there. Appreciate it. Say hey to all the other content creators and find that young boy's name, please. Don't do him like
I'll
that.
see. I'll see if
Find the
he's here
kid.
tomorrow. I mean, he looked like a serious content creator. I'll just say that. I mean,
All right.
I did talk to a couple guys from PFF. So there's
Oh
that.
gosh.
It wasn't my choice. I was introduced to him.
Yeah. All right. All right. So again, hit the notification bell. Thanks for hanging out with us. In the meantime, in between time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, go Niners.